And welcome back to a Standard Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Jono, and as always, my co-host Chris is here, and we are moving right into our mock draft-a-thon, our Mockathon, as Chris put it. Mockathon. We're going to be drafting from various positions in different mock drafts and dropping these mocks every single day this week, leading up to what possibly could be your draft this coming weekend. As we know, this upcoming weekend and Labor Day weekend are the two most popular times for mock drafts amongst the league. So while you're at it, like and subscribe, hit that notification button so you get the episode drops so you can see where we are mocking from and you can get some tips, tricks, and maybe even see what you can do with your team going into your fantasy drafts. That being said, let's kick it in.
Let the Mockathon begin.
Let the Mockathon begin. So we're going to be doing a 12-team standard scoring league here. That's going to be pretty much the basis of all our drafts. So you can take this. I know PPR is going to look a little bit differently. However, half-point PPR should look pretty similar to this as well. So take it how it is. I'm going to be drafting from the 1 spot. Chris is going to be drafting from the 12 spot. We're going to be turntable buddies here. So we're going to take 90s.
I like that rap.
We're going to give you the best advice that we would do at these positions and see what type of teams we can build here. So that being said, let's kick it off. To me, here is a no-brainer. I'm going with JJ. You could be tempted to go Christian McCaffrey, and you wouldn't be wrong here. And obviously, you can make case for anybody at the one position. I just think he's the surefire shot here. Has a chance for 2,000 yards. His touchdowns will increase this year. The passing attempts for that team will increase. He's a clear-cut no-brainer, and I have no issues with injuries with him. He stays pretty healthy. So Justin Jefferson off the board. Afterwards, you got early Travis Kelce, Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp, Bijan Robinson, Chase Hill, Barkley, Brown, Chubb, leading up to Chris here. So you had a good run on some running backs here, and the big wide receivers are all gone, and including Travis at the tight end spot. So what do you like here?
I mean, I think this is a kind of a no-brainer to me. It's at the 12 position. It's like who's going to fall there that's going to have really good value. And there's two players that fell, one a running back and one a wide receiver, and I'm going to take them both. I'm going to take Derrick Henry on the first, and then I'm going to turn around and take Stephon Diggs in the second. And, you load your team up at two studs at both those positions. I'm locked up. Love it.
I love it too. That's a good duo to start off with. You have Taylor, first quarterback off the board. The third pick in the second round is Mahomes, CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra, Allen, Wilson, Andrews, Pollard. And back to me here. So I've got my receiver. I want to leave the third round with a running back because it's going to be so many more picks before it gets back to me, and there's a big drop off. Luckily here, I've got two running backs that I feel comfortable with going, and one guy that I sort of reach on, even though I don't think it's a reach. And I'm talking about Stevenson, Harris, and Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon being the reach just because it's called his ADP. I'm going to lock in Ramondre Stevenson. I think this guy's going to have a fantastic season. I think he's going to be a beast there, and I'm not afraid of Zeke getting there. Yeah, maybe he loses some touchdowns to Zeke around the goal line area and some change of pace, but overall, this guy's going to be involved in the passing game. He has to be because their receivers are not prime. I love it. And then I want to try and see what I can do here. The fact that Jalen Hurts is still sitting here for me, I think at the 2-3 turn, this is a spot where if you want to take your shot on a Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, this is where you're going to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to lock in Jalen Hurts. I'm going to go for the guy that's a potential MVP candidate, should have almost won the MVP last year, and he's going to be a beast at this position. Najee and Breece Hall follow up. Waddle, Higgins, Smith, Etienne, Samuel, Metcalf, Gibbs, and then the next quarterback off the board is Lamar Jackson. Chris sitting here at the 3-4 turn. What are you doing now that you have a top running back, top receiver?
Well, I think I'm going to go lock up my second running back. Like you said, you were overdrafting Joe Mixon a little bit at the other swing. But I think Joe Mixon here at the third round is a really good option. From a wide receiver standpoint, we have Olave, Allen, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper. We have a lot of guys still there in the fourth round. But this is where I really like, we've talked about kind of like the tail end of the run on tight ends, and this is kind of where those guys are going. So I'm going to go and draft George Kittle here. and take my tight end.
Locking in his tight end. Following up, you got Kenneth Walker, Aaron Jones, Olave, another quarterback in Burrow off the board. I know Sleeper tends to get a lot of early quarterbacks off of there versus other platforms. Calvin Ridley, Sanders, TJ Hawkinson, Keenan Allen, Cooper, and Fields. I was hoping Cooper would fall to me here as my wide receiver too, or Keenan Allen. But that being said, I'm perfectly fine with what is on the board. Two things. I want to get my second running back here because there still is one guy on this board that is worth the fifth round pick at the turn here, and I think he's going to lead his team in rushing. He almost had 1,000 yards last year until his ankle injury cut his season short. I'm going to go Dameon Pierce. Following up with my wide receiver 2, I still, based on Hawkinson going, I don't want to take a tight end in the 5th round here. I'm going to punt the tight end to either the 6th or the 7th round. I want to get one of these more premier wide receivers, and I'm going to go with the upside of DJ Moore. We saw it in the preseason. We could see a change of pace in this offense, and I like what he can do for Chicago. So that rounds out the end of my turn. You got Kamara, McLaurin, Justin Herbert off the board, Christian Watson, J.K. Dobbins, D-Hop, Madison, London, Akers, and Kyle Pitts right before Chris here at the 5-6 turn.
Yeah, I really like a couple players here. I think that this is kind of the end of where, if I don't go and grab a quarterback in these 2 picks, I'm going to punt it for much later in the draft. And I like Trevor Lawrence sitting right there. I think he's going to have a fantastic season. So I'm going to go and draft Trevor Lawrence with my first pick. And then sitting there at the 6th round, I want to go. I have 2 running backs already, and the running backs that are still on the board are Connor and Swift and Cook. I still think that there's plenty of guys there that I can wait another round to go and get one of these guys, considering I already have that position locked up. So I only have one wide receiver, so I'm going to go and get another guy. And the guy I absolutely love this year that I want a piece of is Brandon Ayuk. So I'm going to go and get my fellow ASU alum, and I'm going to snag him up right there.
I like that. Following that is Godwin and Judy, the 2 others that were ranked ahead of him. James Conner, Mike Williams, Goddard, and Waller at the 7 and 6 teams. DeAndre Swift, Lockett, Kirk, and Hollywood Brown. And that stings because I was hoping one of 3 players fell to me here in the 6th round.
Those 2 tight ends?
Those 2 tight ends or Hollywood Brown. I didn't think Connor would make it back to me, but I really was hoping for Hollywood Brown and get a steal there as well. So that being said, I'm going to punt this tight end position in this draft. And looking at it here, I'm just going to go for some more depth at these different positions. You've got Dalvin sitting here, Michael Pittman, Javonte Williams. I don't feel comfortable with any of these 3, to be honest with you. Rachaad White would be a solid RB3, but I'm going to go a little bit down and pick up David Montgomery here. I think he's going to have a fantastic season. That offensive line is primed for an in-between-the-tackles runner. And if he could just get half the touchdowns that Jamal Williams got on the goal line last year, he's going to be a successful running back for you in a flex position for me here or RB2 if there's injuries. And then I want to go for some upside here at wide receiver. And there's 2 people I'm looking at. It's Deontay Johnson and Jackson Smith-Njigba. And to think that my wide receiver 3 would be a rookie is fine, but for that wide receiver 3 rookie to be the 3rd on the depth chart, I don't feel as comfortable with. Whereas Deontay Johnson, we know, is number 1 on the depth chart. And I know Pickens is great, and he's been great in this preseason, but Deontay Johnson's still going to get the volume and opportunities there, and he has to score some touchdowns this season. Let's be honest. Following that is Pittman, Deshaun Watson, Dalvin Cook, Javonte, 2 quarterbacks back-to-back in Prescott and Tua, Pacheco, Pickens, Ingram, and Treylon Burks. 7-8 turn for you here, Chris. What are you doing now?
Yeah, I mean, this is where I'm gonna start loading up on some depth on my team, and there's a lot of guys that I really like that are still in this, and there are 2 in particular that I don't think I'm gonna have a chance at. And that I love because of volume. So Rachaad White's here. That's the smart pick, but a couple picks down where I think some more running backs are going to go is Zach Charbonnet. And I love me some Zach Charbonnet. So I'm going to go and take him there. And this is a perfect time. 7, 8 round is where I would start reaching on some players. And if you're getting them a half a round early, like fine. Like if you like them better than, like Jono just said, with Jackson Smith and Jigba, he's probably going to be the number 3 on the depth chart. But I scrolled down a little bit, and there are some guys that are still there. I mean, Brandon Cooks is sitting there a couple ranks after, and I love some Brandon Cooks this year. I love his potential in that Cowboys offense, so I'm going to go and grab him right there too.
So I'm hoping somebody by the name of Zay Flowers makes his way back to me, which it should this round. He's not going to last another round. So now I'm in this position, no tight end. By the way, Rachaad White went right after Chris, Mike Evans, Addison, James Cook, Jamal Williams, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Jahan Dotson, Rashad Penny, Gibson, and Tony. I'm tight endless here, and I said I was going to punt the tight end. I'm going to still do that. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Zay Flowers 100% here. This guy is going to end up getting himself to be the number 1 option in Baltimore.
He's the guy I was going to go with over Brandon Cooks. Where Brandon Cooks sitting there, I can't pass that up.
No, I like the Brandon Cooks pick for you there too. And then being the fact that I got Jalen Hurts, here would be a position that maybe I would, if I had another QB like Prescott or Tua, I'd maybe take Anthony Richardson for the upside of a late season push. But I like Hurts for the full season. Not going to do that. And Freiermuth and Njoku don't wow me here, so I'm going to punt the tight end position around further, and I'm going to continue to go with depth. And here I'm going to go with another wide receiver, and I'm going to go for back-to-back rookies, and I'm going to get Quentin Johnston. Devon Achane afterwards, Gabe Davis, A.J. Dillon, Pat Freiermuth, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Michael Thomas, Njoku, Brian Robinson, who is a guy that I was thinking about taking instead of Quentin, Anthony Richardson, Samaje Perine, and back to Chris.
I love how this works out, because this is exactly, I knew some running backs were going to go, and the couple before him went, and I'm going to go right here and snag up Chicago's RB1, which is Khalil Herbert.
He should not be this deep in your drafts, by the way.
Not be this deep, and that's
if he is,
round.
Take it.
Yeah. So then, I'm sitting there and I have pretty much all my positions filled. I have some depth already. I can go and get another receiver, and this is a spot that I absolutely love. This position, 10th round, and you're looking for, another depth with some really high upside, and Elijah Moore sitting right there at the 10th position. Absolutely love that. So I'm going to go ahead and snag Elijah Moore there.
Afterwards, Cortland Sutton, who's another one that I like this year. He was last year's kind of sleeper pick for me, and he fizzled out, but I think that was more of a Russell Wilson issue. Then Dalton Kincaid, who I was hoping would fall to me. Damian Harris, Odell Beckham, Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazard, Kirk Cousins, then Chig Okonkwo, Jameson Williams, and Dalton Schultz. I was really hoping to get Dalton Schultz, but I'm happy with the tight end here in the 10th round. And because I have the 10-11 pick, I'm kind of debating on which one I want to go with first, but it doesn't really matter. I'm going to go with Cole Kmet here. I think the guy just got paid. He also was a top 10 tight end for Chicago last year. And I know I'm hinging on Chicago's passing game here, but I'm pushing that the MVP odds for Justin Fields are in play here, and he improves on his passing game and continues with his rushing. And again, then we're going to keep going down the full depth of my positions. Now I've got plenty of wide receivers. Here's the thing. There's two running backs here I like, Elijah Mitchell and Jerick McKinnon. And I think I'm going to go with Elijah Mitchell purely the fact that if anything happens to CMC, I've got an RB1. And even if I don't have, I have an RB2 because the guy still is productive when he gets in the games for the 49ers. And to get him in the 11th round, I'm happy with that. Daniel Jones goes, Geno Smith, Rashad Bateman, Sky Moore, Tyler Boyd, Adam Thielen, Rashee Rice, McKinnon finally goes, Jacoby Myers, Kendre Miller, and we're now in the 11th round. Now, again, this is a 15-round draft, so we do have kickers and defenses, so don't be alarmed when you start to see them go off the board.
Yeah, speaking of that, I'm gonna go and I like Trevor Lawrence for the entire season, but I think that a lot of teams, especially if you're looking to win a championship, not just win a lot of games during the season, you're gonna have to have some things in place to, if you do have an injury at a key position, to have a solid backup. So Jared Goff still being on the board here, I'm gonna go and draft Jared Goff as being my backup quarterback. And then, kick. I know a lot of people knock it, but if you see your team, like if you look at my team right now, I have every position filled with backups. And so this is a great position to go and be able to take the number one defense that I feel off the board, or the number one kicker off the board, to have them. Now, I don't. I still think this is maybe a little bit too early to do that. But just for I still think like there are wide receivers I like, and there are running backs that I like, that I can draft later on. So let's just go for shits and giggles. I'm gonna go and draft the Eagles defense here.
Now, that being said, the caveat about a defense this early, the way our league runs it and some other leagues run it, defenses start with positive points and you only lose points. Some other leagues, you'll start with 0 points and you go up or down from there. So know what your scoring platform is. That goes across the board for any of these picks, but know how your points are scored. QBs with 4-point touchdowns versus 6. You're obviously not going to be drafting them as high. Obviously, this draft is a 6-point touchdown here, and it's standard scoring, not PPR, so a lot more running backs. But in the case of this one, we're saying that the defenses are point scorers and they're worthy, which they should be. The fact that they can go negative in some leagues is just infuriating to me. It's like, why even do that? Why even put the position in? So I like it there. That's a place to get it. You got Darnell Mooney, Tank Bigsby, Russell Wilson, Dulcich, Algier, Foreman, Mingo, Mostert, Elliott, Singletary. I was hoping Elliott or Mostert would fall to me here. But that being said, with Cole Kmet, I'm going to take a young Sam Laporta here as my second tight end because I punted the position. I want to have a little bit of depth there. And being the fact that Detroit loves to throw the tight ends. Jared Goff loves to throw his tight ends. And outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, they really don't have a big receiver there. And I know it's risky for a rookie tight end, but I think Laporta is going to come in, and he's been working with the ones. He's going to give them something. And again, he's my tight end too, but if he starts to blow up a little bit and I feel comfortable switching between him and Kmet on a week-to-week basis, I may have something there. And then moving forward, there's one guy here that I love, and I want him on my team, and that's Romeo Doubs. I think this guy has a rapport with Jordan Love, and I think he could end with the most targets on the team this season. Zay Jones goes, Higbee, Jalen Warren, who had an amazing run, by the way, if you didn't see it yesterday, Roshan Johnson, Bryce Young, Gerald Everett, who's another sleeper tight end pick there, almost went with him, Justin Tucker, McPherson, 2 first kickers off the board, Nico Collins, who should not be a 13th round pick, and Rondell Moore.
So now in this position, again, I have my defense. I have every other position filled. Now I'm just getting depth, and I'm going to take some flyers on guys that I really, really like that can emerge as solid pieces of their team. The first being Deuce Vaughn with the Cowboys, and the second being Tank Dell, who is still available.
I love that pick.
So getting that 13th and 14th, now the only thing I need to do is fill a kicker. I have the Mr. Irrelevant kicker position, which I'm perfectly happy with.
Which, after Tank Dell, you had a run on kickers, a total of 8 as well. I'm not going to name them all out, but in between them, you did have Derek Carr and Taysom Hill go. Now I need a defense and I need a kicker here. Luckily, the rest of this league did not think highly of defenses, and I'm going to go with who I think is the best on the board again, and that's San Francisco in that division. That defense, to me, is going to crush. And then just the caveat, the same thing we said with the defenses. Know how your kicker points are being scored, because if you get negative points for missed kicks, you may want to draft a kicker a little bit higher because you want to get that guy that's a sure thing and it doesn't miss a lot of kicks. If you get extra points for 50-yarders, getting somebody like Tucker, getting somebody like Tyler Bass, these guys who have Harrison Butker, who have boots and are going to take those long field goal shots, it's going to benefit you that way. But if it's 3 points across the board, just wait till the last round to get your kicker at that point. So here, I'm just going to go with Graham Gano, New York Giant. Keep it simple.
You don't want Dicker the kicker?
No Dicker the kicker. No way. I do like Cameron Dicker, to be honest, but And then the rest are rounding out defenses till Chris's last pick, where he can go Dicker the kicker if he wants to.
I'm not going to. I'm going to go Greg the leg. All right.
Greg,
You're going to go your kicker. I'll go my kicker.
might as well. All right, so I'm going to quick run through my roster. Chris will run through his roster. At the 1 pick, I started with Justin Jefferson. Second pick took Ramondre Stevenson. Then on the turn took Jalen Hurts. Fourth pick, Dameon Pierce. Fifth pick, DJ Moore and the upside of that offense. Sixth pick was David Montgomery. Seventh pick, I started my bench with Deontay Johnson. Eighth pick on the turn, I had Zay Flowers, rookie phenom in camp so far. Ninth pick, I got another rookie in Quentin Johnston. Then I went back up and got my tight end in the 10th round finally, and that was Cole Kmet, who I feel very strongly about. And then 11th pick, I took the backup to CMC, who has a chance to be an RB1 if anything happens to him, and that's Elijah Mitchell. And then I wanted to fill my tight end depth because if you don't get the top guys, you want to make sure you have somebody else, and I took Sam Laporta, a young tight end in Detroit. My last positional pick here was Romeo Doubs, who I think Romeo Doubs is going to have a huge season with Jordan Love. Chris, if you want to read out who you got.
Yeah, let me ask you before we go through my team: is there any pick that you wish you had to do over with?
Looking at the looking at the board
now that you see the board, you're like, I wish I waited on that one.
Well, here's the thing: you'd always hindsight, because if I knew I was getting Deontay Johnson there, he could have been my wide receiver too, and I could have punted DJ Moore at that point, and I could have went with another running back. If I wanted to, or I could have taken Kyle Pitts or Waller in that 5th round. I just didn't want to take the 5th round pick on that. I like the upside of Moore, so that would have been the one I kind of sat with. And then I would say probably if I took Quentin Johnson, knowing that I got Cole Kmet in the 10th round, instead of Cole Kmet, I was thinking about I could have went Laporta and Everett as a pair, because I think Everett's going to have a great season, or Dulcich. And to me, I could have still taken somebody like Jonathan Mingo, who I like a lot, or Rashee Rice. That would have given me another depth position. But overall, I'm happy with this team. At the 1 spot, I think I was able to just zig and zag around and take what's given to me, because sometimes that's what you got to do.
Sure. So going through my team, I drafted at the 12th spot. So first pick, I went, I let the draft come to me, and whoever fell. So I got Derrick Henry and Stephon Diggs as my first 2 picks, back to back. Which I absolutely loved. Like that is an ideal scenario to be at the 12th pick and have those 2 guys drop to you. Arguably a top 5 running back and a top 5 wide receiver, and you get them at the 12th pick.
Both could finish top 3, by the way.
Yeah. So love the upside and love the high floors for them. So you should be absolutely ecstatic if you have those 2 there. Following up in the 3rd round, I went Joe Mixon, then went early on the tight end because I just wanted to solidify my tight end position and get one of those top 4 guys with George Kittle. And then Trevor Lawrence in the 5th round. When there started to be a run on quarterbacks, and he was kind of the last of my upper echelon quarterbacks that I wanted to go and get. Otherwise, I would have punted the position. And you'll see later in the draft when I drafted Goff, I still, even with Lawrence, want to have a backup there. It's not if I had Hurts or if Mahomes or Allen, Burrow, I would have just been happy with drafting one. But the fact is that Trevor Lawrence, there's a lot of uncertainty there. But then following up in the 6th round, I went Brandon Ayuk. In the 7th round is when I really started to reach for some players, and I threw ADP out the window, and it's players that I really like in good situations. So Zach Charbonnet in the 7th, Brandon Cooks in the 8th, and then in the 9th, Khalil Herbert. In the 10th, Elijah Moore, and both those guys, Khalil Herbert and Elijah Moore, have no business being down at the 9th and 10th pick, especially at the tail end of being at the 12th position. So loved the value of getting both of those guys. You have a potential number 1 overall. Number 1 on the team, running back, and then the number 2 wide receiver in an offense that we expect to be top 10 offense in the league this year. Then the 11th round, going in Jared Goff, and then like I said during the draft, I went with the Eagles defense. I think that they're going to get after the quarterback a lot. That front 7 is fantastic. They got great secondary too. So I just absolutely like this defense, and you look at the other positions. I already had my bench kind of filled up at that spot, so why wouldn't I take a shot on getting the premier defense that I want to go get? And then the 13th and 14th round were my last positional guys, and those are guys I'm just going to take flyers and throw a dart at. And I think Deuce Vaughn and Tank Dell are two guys that are going to be highly used in their offenses and can have a lot of late season value on the team. Obviously, if anything happened to Pollard, Deuce Vaughn is going to have a lot of the workload. And I think he can play a major role in this offense. And same thing with Tank Dell. I think he's going to be heavily used in this offense, and getting him in the 14th round is fine. I'd rather take a flyer on someone I really, really like than just go and grab ADP at that point. And then the 15th round, win a kicker. It doesn't matter. The last pick in the draft.
Now, to close out this episode, I just want to ask you one question. I know we talked a little bit about Trevor Lawrence, and I know some people are on the fence about Trevor Lawrence. To me, he was the last quarterback in that upper echelon that you have in your rankings, but if you were to pass on Lawrence in that pick, who would have been the first quarterback you would have tried to target there at that 12 spot? Jared Goff. So you would have waited till the 11th round. Would you still have gotten two quarterbacks at that point? Would you have tried to get somebody else?
I think like Aaron Rodgers fell, and fell pretty
he went
late.
10th round. Yeah, you could have got him there.
And I would have kept my eye on where Tua was going to go. So if I didn't go Lawrence there, and Tua was if Tua was available at the next turn, I would have drafted him. But Tua was not available at the next turn. He ended up going, and that's the danger you risk, right? So if I miss on Lawrence and there's only two guys in my next tier after them, after I drafted Lawrence, we had three quarterbacks go before I picked again, and that was Deshaun Watson, Dak Prescott, and Tua. And so if I miss out on those three, then I'm booting the position for another couple rounds. And I would have been fine grabbing Aaron Rodgers. I really like him this year. And I would have been fine grabbing Kirk Cousins, but those guys didn't go until the 10th round. So I probably would have waited until the 9th or the 10th round to draft a quarterback. And I would have been fine with that.
With Goff, yeah. All right. Well, again, thanks for tuning in. We're going to be posting up our finals for this one. If you're watching this now, you can jump over to our Instagram and you could see we'll post up the picture of our two, and you can vote on who you think won the draft between Chris and I here. Thanks for tuning in. Again, tune in the next couple days because we're going to continue to reel out these mock drafts from different positions. And don't forget to hit that notification button and like and subscribe so that you can see when we drop these mock drafts for you to prep for your fantasy drafts. See you next time.